Welcome to Ask Alex Anything, the video blog where you can ask me, Alex, anything you want to about religion. Today's question comes from Darren. Darren asks, how can I know or have faith God is real? There seems to be a lot of evidence to suggest that God is a human creation. In my last video, I talked about some of the evidence supporting the notion that God is a human creation. Now I'd like to talk about one piece of evidence that supports the notion that God exists. There are certain instances when people have died for short periods of time and have experienced what they claim to be afterlife. These instances are commonly referred to as near-death experiences, or NDE. Near-death experiences tend to follow a very definable pattern. The person has a sense of being dead, usually followed by a sense of peace and painlessness. The person will then have an out-of-body experience, which eventually results in moving toward a tunnel of light. This light causes an intense feeling of unconditional love and an encounter with beings of light, which are thought to be angels or even God. The person is shown their life in review and is then returned to their body either of their own accord or by the decision of others. Some scientists have proposed that this pattern is simply an evolutionary shutdown mechanism in the brain. In other words, it's the brain's way of making death a much more pleasurable experience. But there's evidence to suggest that this isn't true. Many people, once they enter the phase of floating out of their bodies, travel around the earth in real time before going into the tunnel of light. For instance, one man claimed that he floated out of his body and found himself 40 miles away in a pub he had never visited before. There in the pub, he listened to people having conversations. After he was brought back to life, he visited the pub because he wanted to confirm whether the experience had been real or a figment of his imagination. When he questioned the patrons, they confirmed that the conversation had indeed taken place. If his brain was simply shutting down, this type of occurrence would not have been possible. He would have to possess a soul or a spirit in order for this to be true. But what's even more interesting is that after people go through the tunnel and end up in heaven, they tend to encounter dead relatives, some of whom they have never met before. For instance, a young child went through this experience and encountered an older brother he had never met. He asked his parents about this brother upon his return, and they were shocked. His mother had lost his brother due to a miscarriage many years earlier. Another interesting point is that every person who has gone through an NDE returns with a strong sense of God's presence and existence in the universe. God doesn't seem to care about your religion at all. Everyone seems to have the same basic experience with small variations here and there. These experiences are the only empirical evidence that one can point to as confirmation for the existence of God. So I highly recommend reading some of their stories because they are very fascinating. Thanks for the question, Darren, and as usual, keep sending in your questions to Ask Alex Anything or come visit us at pinestreet.org. Until next time, bye-bye.